I'm trying. Today has really been a struggle for me to get this live stream going. I don't know if there's anybody here on either platform yet, because this has just been a disaster. Um, I don't, man. There's so much to cover here. I don't know how my audio sounds. I don't. My video kind of looks like garbage right now. I feel like that's not great. Oh, you know what? I haven't. Frick. Edit, edit, listed, public, save. Okay. It helps. It helps if I make the video public. That helps. We're gonna talk here in a little bit. Um, once I make sure that everything here is running the way it's supposed to, because it is very much not ready to go right now, and I am super frustrated by that. But I don't want to let that impact how the rest of the stream goes. Collins is here. That is outstanding. Thank you. Thank you. It's been such a crap catastrophe over the last 45 minutes. I don't know how my audio sounds. I don't know how my video sounds or my video looks. Here it looks meh. I don't know if it's the right microphone. It says it's the right microphone, but that doesn't tell me anything in the grand scheme of things, because that's frustrating. Um, hey, spuppas, spoopos. Hi. I don't. Again, I can somebody let me know if they can hear me. I think that's a good place to start. Can you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? Nighthawk is here. Again, I don't know. I don't know if you guys can hear me. You can hear me. Okay. Um, I think this microphone is here. I can hear the words coming out of your mouth. Okay. That's a good starting point. Thank you. Um, it's now 11:13. I came out here at 10:30 because I wanted to do some initial prep to make sure that everything would look and sound the best they can for who you're dealing with. So I came out and noticed that my keyboard wasn't lighting up. I wasn't able to like bring my screens up. Um, and I was confused by that. I was like, okay, well, maybe it just locked up. And then I looked over at the mini PC that's down here that I've been using for the last month or so, and I realized it was off. And I was like, okay, well, then I will turn it on. And I pushed the button and nothing happened. And I pushed the button and nothing happened. And I pushed the button and nothing happened. So I pushed and held the button and nothing happened. So I reached over and I was able to turn on the GPU dock without issue. It turned on, GPU powered up, but still nothing happened. And so I think it's entirely possible that my Minis Forum UM880 Plus has taken a shit on me. There's no other explanation for it. I tried multiple power supplies. I tried multiple places to plug it in the wall, and it will not power on. I spent like 20 minutes trying to deal with that. I've spent the last 20 to 25 minutes. I ran in and I grabbed my ThinkPad V Pro laptop, and have been trying to get that to work. But of course, the number of plugs that I have on this versus that are different. I only have one HDMI port on the side of this. I don't have a display port. I don't have any way to hook up an external GPU to use those display ports. So now I have the screen that I normally use. It is at 1080p, and that's great. I'm stoked about that. That's working. I've got my laptop display over here, and it's super inconvenient to be over here, but it's where it works for the moment. I've got an Asus ProArt portable display hooked up over USB-C and Thunderbolt or whatever, and it's here and it's available that I can use. But it's been a rough it's been a rough go for the last little bit. Of course, then I had to reconnect all of my social medias to my Meld Studio application that I use for these live streams. Let's do that. I'm sorry, I'm resizing some things so that I can make this work better and see things better. Oh, keep changes. Um, and it's been a rough like 45 minutes. Like none, I can't use my Stream Deck because I don't have that programmed to the Meld Studio on my laptop. So I don't have chat on the screen. I don't have like even if I switch over to like the desktop, I still don't have my stupid face there. So let's fix that together. We're gonna go we're gonna go video device. We're gonna do this. We're gonna say Elgato's that's great. I'm gonna drag this down and then hopefully you guys can see. Yeah, there we go. And then we're just gonna do this. We're gonna drag that. No, I want all of them though. Why? Oh, right, because I'm dumb. That's right. So then I should be able to drag this over. No, gosh darn it. I don't want it to be linked. I want to just drag this over. Okay, sorry. It's been a while since I've done this. So I'm going to unlink this. I'm going to drag. I am not familiar with XKCD's 349. Those bare bones Gorilla Network, dude, right? And I hate doing this because you guys deserve better. You genuinely do. And unfortunately at the moment I can't give you better because that's the one there. I don't want that to change. But see, now it's doing this and no. I just want it. Okay, I know I'm doing this wrong. I know what my problem is. I got this. I'm sorry. I'm just having a moment. I'm super frustrated. And as much as I joke about let's just do it live, I hate doing it live. So let's drag this down a little bit. Sort of like that. And then we'll do that. Right. And then I mean, that was almost right. All right. Well, then we can shrink this down. We can put this over here. Okay. Okay. Well, now at least you can see my stupid face when we get to what we're here for. Let's see. Computer, yeah, shortcut, Elden Ring rules. Played it a little bit. It was fine. Bare Bones Gorilla Network, yeah, I just only deserve the worst. I feel you on that sometimes. Don't take it hard. That stuff happens. Dude, thank you guys for your support, your patience on that. Genuinely, I appreciate it. That was not helpful. Why did it switch to that? That's stupid. This, right? Then this should be just video, just like that. That. Okay, I think we're getting it somewhere. So, dumb face, desktop with dumb face. I think that's as good as we're gonna get for right now. So it is what it is, as they say. My life has been deep breath, point your toes, you got it. Yeah, look, and here's the thing, right? Like, okay, so let's talk briefly about my week and how that has gone, because it's been interesting to say the least. I take it the mini PC died. Initial impressions tell me the mini PC died. I came out and it was like my keyboard wasn't lit up. I couldn't get the screens to turn on. Realized it was the mini PC was off, so I hit the power button and nothing, and hit the power button and nothing, and held the power button and nothing. But the RTX 2070 GPU dock still was able to power on manually. I don't know what has happened, but I'm definitely going to be reaching out to Minis forum. I don't blame them. Stuff happens. I've had other people in comments tell me that they've had something similar happen when I reviewed this video or when I reviewed this product and other Minis forum products. Sometimes stuff happens, right? I'm not mad. It was just super, super inconvenient that that's how it happened today. Just really, really bad timing. And I agree, Aruna. It is shocking that the PC died. I've never had a mini PC die on me before, and I've reviewed a couple dozen. Never had one die. So I'm just shocked. But okay, so let's back up. Yeah, well, this is iced tea. I'm already starting with the tea. So I'm starting with the iced tea just because I need some tea. So Wednesday, the 8th, Thursday, I went and saw a new psychiatric professional. I don't know if some of you might be new here. Earlier this year, I started having some problems with my brain more than normal. Talked to my doctor. He referred for neuro. Neuro was like, you don't fit the criteria to have a meeting with us until you do this other thing. So I had a neuropsych evaluation done. And that went really, I mean, it went as well as it could. I did a 6-hour test in like 4, so go me. A couple of days later, I got the results back, which shocked me. I didn't expect to get them back that soon. I got diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, ADHD, both hyperactivity and attention deficit. Like it used to be one or the other. Now it's one sub-split, which I think is stupid. Anyway, I've got both sides of the ADHD thing going on and some other vascular related neuropathy thing that I'd never heard of before. So I get that information. I take it back to my doctor. I'm like, hey, here's the information they gave me. Here are the suggestions they made. Will you make the proper referrals on my behalf? Because that's your job. Right. And he did his job, but I didn't like the places that he referred me to. So I did my own digging, found somebody very close to where I live, who specializes in the things I need them to specialize in. So I went in and met with her on Thursday. That was the 8th. Also the 9th anniversary of the day they brought me out of my 3rd coma. So that was just kind of a weird day overall. I went in, I met with her. We chatted for 2 hours, even though my appointment was only for 1. And she made some suggestions about some different things that she thought might be able to help me, both with some therapy stuff and some reading, and some pharmacology and that sort of thing. So for one of those pharmacological things, she had to put in a referral somewhere else for me to go talk to them to see if I'd be a good candidate for that treatment. So I went in and I met with them yesterday. And was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. Yesterday morning, went in, met with them, decided to go ahead with the treatment, started that treatment. Today's day 2 of that treatment, and it's going pretty well so far. But I need to back up. Right. So that was all kind of the making my brain be less dumb, slow down, whatever. I'm still waiting on the other pharmacological thing. I'm waiting on that prescription to get filled. It might be a few days, but I've got half my treatment started and that's going well so far. So that was all like Wednesday when I talked to the psych who then referred me to the other person who I talked to on Friday. So Thursday was the 8th. So I guess I talked to her on Thursday. My bad. I was thinking Wednesday, Thursday. Anyway, Thursday I have this psych appointment. Then my wife and I have got plans to go out. The 9th, yesterday was our 9-year anniversary. So because we didn't want to go out on our anniversary because it's a Friday, we decided to go out the night before. So we had rented a hotel room, a big king jacuzzi room at a hotel in a nicer part of town. We get there and they're like, and I go to check in. I'm like, oh, I see we've got you for a standard with 2 queens. And I'm like, no, I reserved the king like spa room. Like we picked this room very specifically because of the amenities in it. And she's like, that's not what we've got in our system. I'm like, cool, here's the receipt that your system sent me. So I would like this room. And she's like, oh yeah, that room is out of commission. It's under maintenance. It's broken. You can't have it. Cool. So I was like, all right, give me a minute. So I did some searching. I found a different place in a different part of town that we actually liked better, with the same amenities for roughly the same price, even though it was a last minute booking. So I handled that situation very well, and I was kind of proud of myself for not having a mild eruption at this chick. Look, it wasn't her fault, right? But I managed to handle the situation, get a different place, same price, same amenities, in a part of town we actually wanted to be in versus where we thought we were going to be to start with. So, um, so then, yeah, so we went out, we went out, we had a great night. Um, and then the next day, met with the other part of my therapy, decided to go through with that, got that started, that's going well. Um, and then I came out here this morning early because I want to be prepped. I want to make sure everything's working. I want to make sure my audio is good. I want to make sure my video is good. I want to make sure that everything is set up properly for the stream, only to find out that my computer has died. So it's been an interesting few days. Yeah. Um, um, So yeah, no, look, it's all gone very well, all things considered. I've still got to figure out this mini PC thing. I have a different mini PC in a box somewhere back here that also has an Oculink port on it that I may try, um, just because I really wanted to go that route. I didn't want to have a laptop and an extra screen and screens over here that aren't working because I don't have the ports. So I'm going to figure it out, right? It's testing my new therapy. Um, but yeah, so that's how my last several days has gone. Mostly good. Couple of little tests, but yeah, and I think alcohol will be involved later today. I think that's absolutely going to happen, but it is not noon yet, so I try to usually keep my drinking at least I usually wait till after noon. Um, but yeah, here's the thing that I've learned. Thomas says I would have lost my mind over that at a minimum. Um, what I have learned from those situations, both from being in customer service for a number of years and dealing with customer service for a number of years, is that very often getting upset, getting irate, yelling, screaming doesn't get you anywhere. Um, I was very, very frustrated, but I was just like, okay, this is last minute and it sucks, but one way or another, this is going to work out the way I want it to. I'm going to make sure that this works out. Excuse me. And I was lucky to be in a position financially where I had set some money aside just in case. So, so if I had to go book a last minute room somewhere else and it was more expensive, cool, I've got that. But luckily, I didn't have to do that. I was calm, I was collected, I was polite, I was understanding, and they just canceled the reservation at the first place. Once I had made the reservation at the second place, and everything was good to go. The chick at the first place was friendly, but she could have been more friendly if I'm being honest. She wasn't rude, she wasn't snarky. She was just like, nah, this is my job. I'm here. Let me see if I can get you checked in. Like, it was just very, very transactional, right? When we got to the second place, the chick that checked us in there, and I don't mean chick derogatorily. I want to be very clear about that. I use chick and dude for it's how I talk. I don't like, I call my wife dude, right? Like, I call our daughter dude. It's so it's not a derogatory meaning when I say things like chick or dude. Um, Got to the second place. She was very nice. She was very helpful. She was very friendly. She was perky. She was bubbly. She was excited to help us. And that added to the pleasure of staying at that location. But it all worked out. So I'm super, super stoked about that. Um, it's always stress ball time. Yeah, I do. I was actually talking to my new therapist. I don't carry a stress ball. I used to carry a stress rock, which sounds weird, but now very much I will like rub right here on my hands as kind of a self-soothing kind of thing. Um, so yeah, it's always 5 p.m. somewhere. Yeah, that's taken me down some dark paths before in my life. I don't want to revisit that. Afternoon here, says David, and it's not generally speaking the fault of the specific person you're interacting with at the moment. It's not the clerk's fault that their website made their move. Exactly. And that's exactly it. And I explained that to her. It's like, look, I'm frustrated, but it's not your fault. I was very clear in, while expressing a bit of frustration, that it wasn't at her. It was the situation that they hadn't notified me ahead of time, because I had rented the room on April, I think it was April 23rd. And so they just changed my reservation and didn't tell me. And that frustrated me. That's where my frustration really came in, was the lack of communication. So it all worked out. We had a great time and whatnot. So, excuse me. But like I said, I had set aside some extra money just in case something came up. So I was able to get it all resolved. I'm out the exact same amount of money as I would have been before. It's just kind of all got to balance back out my checking account from like the deposit on each room and whatnot. It'll all balance out. It'll be fine. It was just like, man, I didn't want to deal with this. This was supposed to be our stress-free spending time together. We weren't supposed to have to deal with stress right now. This was the antithesis of what we wanted, but we're going to make it work. And we did, and it was great. Let's see. Mandy says, in your hotel situation, I would have been in a panic. I'm very fortunate where I am that there are lots and lots and lots of hotels. Now, there was a certain criteria that we wanted a jacuzzi bathtub in our room, like a big one, because that's, we enjoy that kind of relaxation. And there aren't very many of those places here. And the place we landed at, I tried calling several times and was unable to get through, but finally I did. And it all worked out. But there was a moment where I was like, man, we're going to be in a double queen room. We're going to be bummed about this situation. It's going to take the edge off of the fun. We're not going to have as much of a good time, but it all worked out. I don't necessarily believe in the power of positive thinking, or if you've ever seen The Secret with, manifesting or whatever, but but I tried to stay calm. I tried to stay rational, and it all panned out very well. So, Altair123 says, hello, happy to see you. Your videos are amazing and super helpful. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I always enjoy, for my own ego, I always enjoy that. Laddish is waving, saying hi. How's it going? Thanks for joining. Appreciate you being here. Colin says, now that being said, I've done enough travel for work over the years where the changing the room thing without telling you, that's super frustrating. Has happened more times than it should. I believe that. Courtesy in the hospitality industry is almost non-existent. Yeah. I think the bot on Discord is a little lost. That's entirely possible. We have been tweaking it a little bit. By we, I mostly mean James Collins and Nighthawk. They've kind of taken over that role for me, which I super appreciate. I'm not actually sure if I even got Discord open right now. I do not. So I don't know what's going on with Discord. I apologize for any inconvenience that might be going on there. But hopefully you'll be able to join the Discord if you haven't already. So I'm just popping that open. I don't have my ground control app open right now because I don't know if you've even got it. I don't even know if I've got it available on this laptop. Collins messaged me at like 10 after. Is everything okay? Yeah, no, dude. It's been a day. Are you kidding? It put up the wrong frickin' thumbnail in Discord. Maybe that's what you're talking about. Yeah. Definitely the wrong thumbnail for that. That sucks. Because we're not talking about orb. We did that already. You're right, Alexia. I've been so focused on just trying to get this thing up and going. I never actually went back over to the stream manager. Alexia, I super apologize for that. I didn't actually look at it. I haven't yet. And again, I apologize. I don't have ground control on this computer. All of this kind of hit me like a truck at the last moment, unfortunately. And now I don't even know. This sucks. I'm going to have to move some things around a little bit. I can bring this over here. All right. So, okay. So anyway, that's my 24-minute rant about my last several days. Thank you, Alexia, for being patient on that. It's been pretty crazy over the last little bit, and I've just been trying to get settled in. And it's another one of those, we're just going to jump in and we're going to make the best of a situation I wasn't expecting. So thank you to everybody who's here. It looks like there's about 50 of you on YouTube and about 6 of you over on Twitch. Thank you all so much for being here. The plan for today is to talk about something called Arcane. And I'm just grabbing some links because I was so not prepared for this because I didn't realize my computer was going to die on me. So I'm going to pop a couple of links open over here real quick, and then we're going to dig through it a little bit. Now, I'm doing something kind of a little bit different today. And what I mean by that is I have done exactly 0 preparation for this live stream. I've looked at it. I've looked at the project. Alexi is actually one that recommended this in Discord. Right. And I think Ethan shared it in one of his recent newsletters. But yeah, so I'm not, man, I can't even do that. That sucks. Sorry, I'm still trying to figure out a couple of things here. We're going to jump over to my desktop. There we go. And we're going to take a look at what we've got going on here. This is Arcane. That's actually not what I wanted. I wanted their website. So Arcane, it says simple and elegant Docker management UI written in TypeScript and Svelte kit. So not a lot going on here, but it's for container management. Monitor and manage all of your Docker containers with an intuitive interface. Start, stop, and inspect containers with ease. Browse and manage Docker images, pull from registries, build new images, and clean up unused ones. That's awesome. And then visualize and configure Docker networks to understand how your containers communicate with each other. This is all great. Really, really stoked on this. So just a little thing here. Kyle Mendel is the developer on this project. And this is, I emailed with him, kind of back and forth with him over the last couple of days. And apparently this is kind of his first big solo project. He also does, he's like second tier support at Pocket ID or Pocket ID. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Nope, not that. Man, I really wish I would quit jumping behind. If we pop this open real quick. Yeah, support engineer and open source developer focused on building unique and functional software. He is currently working on Arcane as the lead maintainer, and Pocket ID is a secondary maintainer. And I believe Pocket ID is an OIDC or an identity provider for authentication, that sort of thing. So I didn't link his personal website in the video description anywhere, but if you jump over to his GitHub repository, you can find information about him, and you can browse what he does and that sort of thing. Also does music, which I think is great. And he may join us today in the chat based on the conversation we had. He said he might jump in and say hi. So anyway, that's Kyle's GitHub page. That's his webpage. And this is his GitHub. So it's simple and elegant Docker management UI written in TypeScript and Svelte kit. And of course, we've got all of the code here. We can see, 15 hours ago, he was working on this, has been for a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, so we're on point, our version 0.71. So still early development. Expect things to change. This isn't meant to be a be all end all. This isn't meant necessarily to replace what you've already got. What I want to do with this is just show that there are other options out there, other things that you can take a look at that might fit your needs better. I'm not trying to convince you to change what you're doing. I'm not trying to say you should do this instead of that. I will almost never do that unless there's a security implication involved. This is just for me to showcase Kyle's project, where it is currently, as of version 0.7.1. And again, all I have done is, man, I keep reaching for my Stream Deck, and I can't use it right now. All I've really done is I've looked here. I've looked a little bit through here. Like I've seen that like he's got a good amount of documentation, which I love. This is all great. I'm not a big fan of the light mode, but I know that sometimes dark mode is hard to read over video with compression and whatnot. So we already kind of talked about some of this. Key features we've talked about: image management, network volume management, resource visualization are also on here. They weren't in the last thing we read. Arcane works best with Docker version 20.10 or higher. You can check that here. And then we just jump right into the quick start. And hey, check it out. It's a Docker Compose. It's super, super easy to deploy. And I guess while we're here, I'm sorry, I gotta pull something up over here. Dude, Collins, thank you so much for your continued support. Like, you do so much for me, and you just, thank you. So let's see. Let's see. Nighthawk says, I have Pocket ID on standby to try later. I'll always have my bypass keys done for my phone and Bitwarden. Yeah. Is it like Portainer or Komodo? I don't know. Sort of. The idea is apparently very much the same. But again, this is still very early development, and I haven't actually deployed it yet. We're going to do this together in real time for ourselves, just so we can see what it's like to deploy for the first time and get initial reactions. And we'll just dig through this together and kind of go from there. So, hello, Jorge Gomez says, hello all. Just pooping to say hi. Well, I hope you wipe well. Celebrating Mother's Day with my wife. Happy Mother's Day to all your wives and mothers. Thanks, DV Tech. Well, Jorge, thank you for joining, stopping by for a minute. Appreciate it. 2 months anniversary, dude. Thank you so much, Alexia. That's awesome. Currently on a 2-month streak. Thank you so much. And Collins, that was again, you always go above and beyond, and I super appreciate you for that. So yeah, that's kind of where we are. We can take a look at the Docker Compose here real quick while we're here. So services is Arcane. Image, we're pulling from a GitHub container repository. We've got the latest tag on there. We've got a container name of Arcane. It's on port 3000. That's great. And I also kind of appreciate that it only uses one port instead of two. Like Portainer uses 8000 and 9000 or 9443, depending on your setup. But I dig that this only uses one set of ports. That's awesome. We're going to obviously work with the Docker socket. That's how it's going to enter. That's how we're going to talk to the Docker layer of things, is by connecting to the Docker socket. And we've got a volume here for our persistent data. We've got an environment variable of environment is production, public session secret. We can generate one of those right with this little bit right there. Actually, it's this one right here. I lied. Optional for matching volume permissions to your host user. 1000 on both of those, very common, but you can adjust that. Like on my Synology, it's like 998 and 986 or something. So I would have to adjust those accordingly. Optional, you can usually auto detect it if Docker access fails. Optional for local HTTP testing only. Dude, Jorge, thank you so much for that donation. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you very much. Yeah, if we need to, we can uncomment this line right here and adjust as necessary. We've got for HTTP testing only, we can allow for insecure cookies, which we will do. So we're going to enable local authentication with HTTP cookies, not HTTPS. Then we've got a restart list stopped, and then we've got volumes down here. Now, I will say that there is a bit of a disconnect right here, right? We've got Arcane data right here as our volume, which we have here. But because we've got this dot slash in front of it, that's going to be a mapped volume relative to wherever you deploy this. So when we deploy this here in a minute, we're going to remove that dot slash right there, and we're going to change some of the stuff down here a little bit. So just little things, not a big deal. Again, Kyle was very, very clear with me. This is his first solo project on this level. So we're gonna see what we can do to help him kind of go through some of this as we run into things. So that's where we're gonna start. First thing I got to do though is go to my procs demo. I'm gonna spin this up in an LXC like so. I'm gonna come over to here and I'm gonna scroll down. Nope. Because I'm just gonna clone this. I call it Arcane, and then, hey, there's Kyle, dude. Thank you so much for stopping by, dude. Stuff like this happens, man. You get going, and your brain's it's not a big deal. I'm glad we caught it. I'm glad it's an easy fix. Super easy to fix there. So not a big deal at all. Okay, so that's a good question. Thomas says, so why is that dot slash wrong? Okay, so with this dot slash isn't wrong, right? You could use this as a mapped volume somewhere on your operating system's file system, right? So in your Debian or your Ubuntu file system, you could map this to wherever. This is a mapped volume for a folder on your operating system. But if you've got this, it kind of cancels out the need for this, right? This down here at the bottom is declaring a Docker volume, which isn't necessarily directly, easily available, readily available through the file system in Debian or Ubuntu or whatever your base operating system is. So you can run one way or the other, but not both simultaneously with a single volume, right? This is a mapped volume. If we remove the dot slash, then it becomes a Docker volume, and then we have to declare it down here like he did at the bottom. So I actually kind of prefer for things like Portainer, Yacht, Arcane, those kinds of things, I prefer using a Docker volume for this, just because it helps further isolate the data in there. Now, it can also cause complications with other things, but not a huge deal. So, and David explained it very well. Yeah, basically summarized what I always take too long to say. So thank you, David, for further explaining that or contracting that. That's the better way to say it. Anyway, thank you for the assistance. Sometimes I genuinely need that. Let's get rid of this. We don't need that. We're gonna get logged in. Look, I know I'm logging in as root. This is my demo server. It is bad practice to log in as root. You shouldn't do that. But do as I say, not as I do, right? Thomas W, it's not necessarily a more proper way. There are times where one way works better than the other, depending on permissions. There are other times where it's just a preferential thing. So it's I've run into times where I was unable to use a local path or a mapped volume, and I had to use a Docker volume because of the permissions of the way the container was built. Most of the time, if an application is developed, I don't want to say better, but sometimes it will be a developer preference. Sometimes it will be a user preference. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Sometimes there's permissions issues. So it's just kind of trial by fire to see what you're comfortable with, what's allowed, and what works. So it's kind of finding that balance sometimes. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to do Docker stop Portainer because I know that is running. We're going to stop that. And then we're going to do Docker remove Portainer. The reason I'm having to go through these extra steps right now is because my template that I use has Portainer built into it. So I just wanted to stop and remove that so that there was no chance of any kind of collision of whatever. Um, one question, how can I reverse proxy an open speed test server without having a speed downgrade? That's going to depend on your internet. That's going to depend on your reverse proxy. There's just not a lot you can really do there. Sense says, hi, I'm new here. Why is using root as an LXC in an LXC container bad? Lots of reasons. It's usually, it's almost always bad practice to log in as root. Let me bring stupid back up here. So the reason it's bad is you never. It's best practice for security reasons to not use your root account for basically anything than things that only the root account can do. Very often, for security reasons, what you should do is you should get your system up and running, the base operating system, create a new user that has the permissions that you need for deploying Docker containers, that has sudo permissions, however you want to pronounce that, and SSH permissions. Those are kind of the big three. You may run into other things, but those are kind of the big three when we're dealing with what we're dealing with right now. Then at that point, once you have verified that you can do those things with that user, it's usually a good idea to disable the ability for the root account to have SSH permissions. Because the first thing that every hacker is going to try to do is they're going to try root. That's the first username they're going to try. So it's the best thing you can possibly do is get your stuff set up, create a new user with a lot of the same permissions, and then disable SSH permissions on your root account. It prevents that being an open hole in your security. What makes it even more dangerous when you're dealing with an LXC inside Proxmox is that LXCs share Proxmox's kernel, right? So that's why they're lighter weight. Like each LXC doesn't have its own kernel like a virtual machine would. So it's less dangerous to use root on a VM. You still shouldn't do it. But again, because an LXC shares the kernel with the host operating system, in this case, Proxmox, if they can get a hold of that root account and exploit it somehow, then they can actually get into higher levels of your virtualization environment and possibly corrupt your entire system. So it's always best practice to not use root, and unless there's something that's very, very specifically requires root. I hope that explains it. That's kind of the best answer I can give at this point. I'm actually going to drag this back over here. Let's see. Arcane says doing those things in Linux where you create a new user with dedicated capabilities is a bit hard. There are actually scripts that can do that. In fact, I think let me come back over to here. In the script that I use, like when I set up a new VM for the very first time or a new template for the very first time, I have a script that I helped SSH. It is, unless you're doing it locally, right? Unless you're doing it locally, SSH is actually disabled in LXCs by default. You actually have to go turn that on. But if you're doing everything locally, like I'm going to do here, then you can still SSH. You can still do command line stuff with root. So there, and like Thomas W said, think of it like Russian nesting dolls for security, and I think that's a really good way to summarize that. But yeah, so I hope that explanation was helpful. So again, I'm using root for this. Again, this is just demonstrative. This is just for the sake of checking out a new container. But again, you should absolutely use a different account when you're deploying stuff, again, for that extra level of security. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over to here. This is Arcane's Docker Compose file. So what we're going to do is just copy that. We're going to come over to here. I want to see what I've got. Get and and RM setup. I don't need those. Those are the two scripts that I use to deploy everything in my templates. Oops. LS, cool. Nothing else in there. So what I want to do at this point is create a file. Rohol, I know I screwed that up. 1012 says, hi, I'm from Spain. Your videos are amazing. Thanks for everything. Thank you for stopping by to say hi and hanging out for a little bit. I super appreciate your support. So, all right, so let's create a Docker Compose file for Arcane. So what I want to do, nano docker compose.yml, and I'm just going to paste that in there. I did Control Shift V to do that right there. So again, we've got our services of Arcane, our image, our container name, our port. This is all good. I'm going to come back up to here though. And again, I don't want a mapped path there or a whatever, right? I actually want to use a Docker volume for this. So that's what we're doing there. So the next thing we want to do, our app environment is going to be production. That's fine. We could also put that as probably development as well. But I think right now production is going to work out for us really well. This is your super strong random secret password here. We want to run this command. Now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to do a Control O, Enter X, and then I'm going to run that command. Oops, and hit, oh geez, I hit F12 on that and opened up an extra window that I didn't want to open. Cool. Now I'm going to run that, and then we're going to grab this, copy, and then we're going to come into here like that, and we're going to delete all of this, and then we're going to paste that in. Cool. Now our PUID, oops, what is going on here? There we go. Our PUID, PGID, those are going to be probably fine for the sake of what we're doing here. 1000 is fairly standard when we're dealing with this kind of stuff. It's the same PUID and PGID that groups like linuxserver.io use as defaults. But if you were to go in and say create a new user that had permissions for Docker and had permissions for sudo or sudo and those kinds of things, you would want to check the PUID and PGID for those and then adjust accordingly. I'm going to leave these as 1000. This should be fine. We're not going to mess with any of this. Optional, usually auto detect setup if Docker access fails. And then we're going to allow insecure cookies. Let's see. RK says base 64 secret isn't good choice. That is preferential. You could do something else with that if you wanted to. It just needs to be a long string of characters. This is just going to set the cookie, right? This isn't doing a full encryption on the system. This isn't encrypting anything other than the session cookie. So you can adjust that as you want to. He was just giving a suggestion on an easy way to do that. Very often I will just come up to here and I will say generate, and I will say undo that, and I'll say, you know, give me 32 characters, like so, and I would use that instead possibly, unless he's given a specific reason otherwise. But if there's an issue that you find with that, open an issue on the GitHub repository and let him know what your thoughts are. That's the easiest way to communicate with Kyle about that particular thing. So, all right, so we're back to this. We've allowed for insecure HTTP cookies on this. A restart policy is unless stopped. That is fine. With something like this, I might actually go with always instead of unless stopped. But again, that's kind of a preferential thing. All right, so let's see. Mr. Drummer says, what does Arcane offer that Portainer doesn't? I don't know. That's why we're here. I've literally done nothing. Like, this is as far as I've gotten with the deployment of this container. I've done no prep work on this. I've done no additional research on this. I saw what it was. I saw that it was kind of an alternative to other things. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. We're going to go blind. We're just going to jump into this as a group and see how it goes. And that's been the plan since I decided to do this live stream yesterday. So, and I actually want to thank again Alexia for posting this in Discord. Again, I think I've seen this at other places, but I hadn't really paid much attention to it until Alexia put it in the suggestions, into the suggestions thing there. So, and while we're actually talking about that, Colin's brought up Colin. Oh, thank you so much. More tea, yay. Colin's actually brought up a good point that I want to discuss real quick. So, and he brought this up behind the scenes earlier today, whatever, that wasn't part of what we're doing here. Dumb face mode. There we go. Okay. So here recently, Colin's had this idea of adding a dev chat channel to the Discord. And that is so that when I run into a situation or a new application, I can get the dev to join the Discord and we can kind of have a private conversation that doesn't involve getting kind of inundated with a lot of other questions simultaneously, right? And it's not to say that the developer won't chat with other people. It's just a matter of, if we're trying to troubleshoot something, actually ran into something recently with troubleshooting and that sort of thing. So we've added a dev chat channel to our Discord that is for, what's up? Oh, I don't think it is. Yeah. Sorry, she's getting ready to take the kid out into the backyard so he can jump around and do his thing. So the dev chat channel is for developers and admins to chat. It's kind of a separate private room for developers to chat with us and with each other, to help each other communicate and give suggestions and ideas and thoughts and bounce ideas off of each other. So if you are an application developer and you'd like to join that dev chat, it's very new. There's only a handful of people in there right now. Join the Discord, hit one of us up, either me, Jay Collins, or Nighthawk ATL. One of the three of us can get you added to that. We can chat about your project. We can give suggestions. You can chat with other developers, that sort of thing. So just wanted to throw that out there. Also, if you just want to join the Discord to hang out, that'd be awesome. We love chatting in there. There's hundreds of people in there, but there's a smaller group of people who chat regularly, and we'd like to invite more people to do that. So, yeah, so absolutely feel free to join the Discord if you want to do that. So, I wanted to get that out of the way because we were talking about Discord, and I knew if I didn't say it right then, there's a good chance I was going to lose it. So let's jump back over to here. Nighthawk actually said something about, I always set network mode bridge for any stacks with a single container compose deployed in CLI. That's probably a good idea. That is probably a good idea. I don't want to do that just yet, though. I think I want to run this raw. Should be. Yeah, no, it should be. Yeah, she'll be out in a minute, dude. So anyway, I want to just run this raw as it is, and then we can look at other things to add to this as we see fit later on. But let's just run it raw like it is. We haven't really changed anything outside of what was already here. So what I want to do now, Control O, and oops, whoa. Come back over to here, Control O, Enter, and Control X. There we go. So we have saved and exited that file. So I can do a Control L and clear my screen. And then I can do Docker compose up-D. And now it's pulling, and now it's going to do its thing in the background. So, let's see. What tool you used to? That was that thing up here in my browser. That's just Vault or Bitwarden, the Bitwarden plugin connected to my Vaultwarden instance. Yep, it's Bitwarden. Yep. It's very much a subset of Portainer currently. It does have an auto container feature if you're into that kind of thing. There's also some more features planned though. Yeah, and that's what we're doing. We're just taking a look at it where it is right now. Trent says, "Yo, I'm back. Glad to see you today. You're also looking great. Thank you. I've started some new therapy stuff, and I feel good about it. It's kind of reframed my brain a little bit, even though I'm only a few days in. I'm taking things in a little bit differently. So thank you. I'm glad to see that it's already kind of coming through. And demonetized. I don't understand, but okay. I must have missed something. There used to be a self-hosted keygen app for real tinfoil hat people. That's fair. Bridge is kind of a natural, yeah, and that's fine. Again, I don't know that I want to really run this on Bridge just yet. I want to take a look at it, see how it's going to run. And that's on port 3000, like so. Okay. Now I don't know what my username and password is yet. So let's see. Next steps, configuration. Boo, I don't know. Well, now I got to figure out what my username and password is. I have to wonder. Mounts, yeah, permissions, great. Okay, right, cool. Open your browser, you should see this. First time you access, you'll be guided through the initial setup. But, well then, I'd like to learn how to give a different IP address to each of the Docker containers. You can use, there's a Docker VLAN option whose name escapes me at the moment, but there is. Oh, Arcane and Arcane admin. Thank you. That sounds right. Like I remember seeing that somewhere, but I couldn't remember where I saw it. So thank you. So thank you for that. I'm just going to call you Restro because I will screw up the rest of it. So thank you for that. Cool. There we go. Now we can join in we can start getting this set up. Cool. So welcome to Arcane. Thank you for installing. Let's get you set up with a few quick steps. This wizard will help you change the default admin password for security, configure your Docker connection, and set basic application preferences. This will only take a few minutes to complete. I've still got this tickle on the back of my throat that just will not go away. So continue, new password. Cool. Continue. All right, Docker host. All right, cool. So configure basic settings for Arcane. You can change these later from the settings page. So because we're running this on Linux, this should be fine. This should work just fine the way it is. Monitoring updates. Do you want to periodically check for container status? Yeah, that'd be great. Sure, let's set it for 10 minutes. That's fine. And do we want to auto-update containers when new images are available? I do not. Thank you for asking, but I don't enjoy living my life kind of that wild. So, so here's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna slide around, or we're gonna work with this, right? Click that. Cool. That was easy. All right. This looks great. Like this looks really great. Kyle says, I thought I had it there, but I guess I didn't put it on that screen. I'm glad you're here so that you can watch my reaction and other people's reaction in real time. I think this is great. All right, so over here, let's start at the top left. We've got Arcane version 071. So that is current version. We're on our dashboard. We've got containers. We've just got one container right here. We can see the name, the ID, the image, the stat or the state, how long it's been up. We can inspect, restart, stop, or remove. And of course, if we had more containers running, like we will here in a bit, you would see them here. For stacks, we've got this. Oh, no way. Okay. So the name of this stack is root because we deployed it as root in the root folder. One service, status running, source external created, import. No effing way. Okay, that's interesting. So it imported part of it. Now look, dude, okay. The ability to import right there is something I've been asking Portainer to do for a very long time. And they don't do it for whatever the reason happens to be. Now, this is how much of it imported, which is not much. Wait, hold on. Nope. It is not much. It did not import the whole thing for some reason. But this is still a work in progress. It's supposed to work, but it's hit or miss on it. Dude, that's perfectly acceptable. The fact that you've got that as a potential option already puts you ahead of Portainer in certain areas, and I commend that. I've been asking them for this for like 5 years. So when you get this nailed down, when you get it to fully work, that's going to change things for the home lab community, because sometimes things just happen. And if you import it from, let's say you deploy something in like in a Docker compose file in SSH, then you can't import it into Portainer. Or if your Portainer data gets corrupted on something that you've deployed through Portainer, you can't re-import it into a new Portainer instance, and that's infuriating. And that might, like Nighthawk says, that could just be a business edition feature that they've got there. So, I agree with. Sorry, I'm going back a few minutes here. RK says management VLAN and Docker is a pain. I agree. That's why a lot of what I do is in LXCs. That's partially one of the reasons I do it anyway. Bratwurst auto updating containers is really asking for trouble. If you combine it with the latest, you have the perfect bomb waiting for. Yeah, and if you're going to do auto updates, you should absolutely pin the version that you're on and do your other updates later for bigger for version changes. And that's kind of what Mr. Drummer 25 was saying there. Nighthawk is a maniac because he YOLO updates most of his containers because he's got a bunch of them. Teaspoon of honey might help with that tickle. Yeah, I've actually got some strawberry cream throat lozenges that I picked up yesterday that I'm going to switch over to here in a little bit. Let's see. He was really frustrated with Docker for that, so he built it this way for that very reason you just talked about. So now I'm questioning, how do Kyle, Mendel, and Resto, how do you guys know each other? I feel like you guys know each other somehow. Let's see. I agree with Alexia. The import option is cool. Portainer does. Okay, we talked about that. Auto update just isn't a good thing. Running all the time, latest could, yeah. And that's what I was kind of saying, like we talked about a little bit, with, you can do auto updates pretty safely if you're pinning specific versions. But the reality is I run almost everything on latest, and I manually update everything once or twice a week, and it's mostly been fine. I've only had a couple of issues where things went sour. All right. Excuse me. Man, let's try some iced tea. Let's see. Alexia says it's also cool that they offer this as a Docker Compose. Portainer always recommends using a Compose file. Let's see. Oh, you work with them. That makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you both for being here. That's awesome. I really, really appreciate that. I would like to see the auto update would be able to be itemized by container. I don't know what that means, but I might agree with you. I don't know. Can I hook up an additional instance like Portainer agent? I would say probably not this early on, but I don't want to speak for the guys that are here. So let's jump back over to here. Right, let's take a quick look. We can later enable auto update if we want to do that. We've got images over here, and we can see some other stuff going on like Portainer. There's a couple of these in here that I think cool. I like that they look like radio buttons, but are actually check marks. It should be confusing, but I actually appreciate it. And I also appreciate you can just click prune unused. That's brilliant. That is so, so good. Future of Docker is in, of course, Podman. Any plans for Podman support? Yeah, I mean, Podman's great just because it runs rootless, which I appreciate. Where was that? Bratwurst says, how would you mount and manage a single config file in a container when you use in a case like that? So let's actually come back over to here. Right, so you might do, just to answer this question, you might do volumes, and then you might have like home Docker, and again, this is just for the sake of demonstration here. And then you said specifically for like an nginx.conf file. Let's just say files nginx.conf, right? And that's where you're going to store your file, just as an example. But then your application might be, you know, like it just might be, you know, config / nginx.conf, right? So you could create a file on your operating system's like file directory, and then just use this mount point in your file directory in all of the other applications that might need access to that specific file, and then just change, you know, where it actually resides inside the app. I hope that makes sense. So this would be your file, and then this would be the container's reference to that file, right? So you would just use whatever the container is looking for here, and then your location for that file, wherever you decide to store it. I would just be careful about whether or not they can override each other, depending on what your kind of a configuration you're using. Mr. Drummer says, a pain point of container for me is poor management of compose secrets. But for providing secret file requiring mounting, which is not sustainable for porting between instances. Yeah. Digital Cyanide says, I can already see that I may be getting this installed instead of Portainer going forward. It looks fantastic. Possibly a better solution for a more lightweight solution. This looks and feels similar to Dockage. It does, and I agree. And I like Dockage. Man, where did that go? Something. Let's see. I can try to add direct import. Might be a little tricky. Is there a way to easily stack export? That's a good question as well. It's a service. Stop, restore, deploy, pull. Let's go back to stacks. Let's see. It doesn't look like there is currently an option to export, but that would be neat. There are services that can do that, but if you could have it built into this, that would be kind of neat as well. Stacks, do no stack exporting yet, but I can add that for sure. Awesome, cool. Then yeah, that's great. All right, so let's jump back over to here. So we took a look at this. We actually pruned some images that we weren't using. Love that. Networks, bridge, host, root. I want to see something here. Test network. Bridge mode. Bridge mode's fine. Labels. We'll just call this test. Oh, we don't need. No, I lied. We don't need that. We don't need that. All right. Great. Configure now. Now the question is actions. So I would also wonder in the networking section if you plan to add pruning to this as well. Like I know that I can come in here, I can check this box and go over here and click delete, but pruning might be helpful there. Let's look at volumes here, actions, delete selected. So we can delete the data, but it looks like there's currently no prune option for anything other than images. It would be neat if we could add prune to networks and volumes as well. But again, this is still early. This is still just a dry run just to check it out. But I gotta say, honestly, with everything that we've seen so far, and we haven't even deployed anything with it yet, this is amazing. Like I am really, really happy with this. I like the aesthetic. I like how easy it is to use. I really think you guys are onto something with Arcane. I actually really like the name too. So I'm really, really happy with this. I just wanted to intervene for a second to say that. Let's come over to here. Any option for UI customization. If it works like Dockage, you can just choose the folder where the stacks get created and back up that folder. External volumes like NFS or CFS mount. I don't know. All right, so here is this. All right, so this is our settings. This is our settings page. This is under general. Again, we can take a look at our Docker host, where again we're on. We do have a stacks directory. So that was something like Ghostboy was just saying. There is a stacks directory. Now, in this case, though, this is one of those scenarios. Keith Mans said, I just wanted to stop in and say, hi, I can't stay. Got yard work to do. Dude, thanks for stopping by. Super appreciate you being here. So here's the thing, right? So this actually does have a data stacks directory. Now what I need to do here, let's do ls data. Oops, nope. I appreciate the honesty, Resto. Super appreciate that. So what I was doing here was just taking a look at this, right? So in this case, this data slash stacks. Let's do this. Let's do Docker PS. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to clear my screen. So I'm going to do a Docker exec -it. Right. Bash. All right. There we go. All right. Let's do a cd into data. Data ls. There we go. Okay. So now, earlier when we were talking about this, and we're gonna back up a little bit. When we were talking about the ability to, or kind of the difference between using a mapped volume like this or a Docker volume like this. Because there is the option in this case to have a stacks directory, and I wasn't aware of this when I deployed. So what happens is it will store our stacks in data slash stacks, right? And we can see, let's do cd into stacks, ls, we can do cd into root, and there is our compose.yaml file for the script or the stack that we imported. Now, the problem with using a Docker volume for this is that we can't just back up the data slash stacks directory because it's inside of a Docker volume. Like, I know there are ways to do it with scripts and whatnot, but if we had instead deployed this using a mapped path or a system path like this, at that point we would have easier access to this data slash stacks directory, which then makes backing up those stacks to move off of the system easier. So this is one of those cases, like we were talking about earlier. Sometimes it's about preference, right? Sometimes it's about ease of use. Sometimes it's about permissions. This is one of those cases where it might actually make more sense, for the sake of backing up your stacks directory, to put this in a mapped path in your operating system's file system. I hope that makes sense. So having this in a Docker volume complicates the ability to back this up, or back up your stacks easily, because again, there is the ability to have your stacks done here. So if I wanted to, I could, let's do this. Let's do a cp root, root 2. Oops. Oh, darn it. Anyway, I can't think of what the command is for that. But you could make a directory in here for another compose file, go into there, create a compose.yaml file, put your Docker compose in there, and then in theory, it would show up in our interface here. So again, I think this is one of those cases where it might make sense to actually put this on a mapped path versus a Docker volume. I hope that makes sense. I've started. Let's see here. Nighthawk says, I've started keeping sugar-free candies at my desk. I generally do, but you're right. For videos, you hear it clicking around and me slobbering, and that makes for a bad time in videos. But I appreciate that. Let's see. Wait a minute, there was some stuff here. I never create Docker volumes. I create container folders, fill my data stack so I can easily back up my Docker. Yeah, and that's kind of what we're talking about here. But I wanted to deploy it as it stood natively with Docker Compose. Again, if I had deployed it this way, we would have used a mapped volume, a mapped path, whatever you want to call it. It would have created the volume, the Docker volume, but it wouldn't have actually used it because this wouldn't have referred to it. So in this case, this would have deployed fine and would have given us easier access to the stacks in this data folder. So it's just, I'm glad that we talked about that earlier. And then this actually had the chance to demonstrate how things can be affected by which type of volume you select. And I agree. So other people have said that they keep them in Git. Other people just create a folder and put them there. Lots of different ways to handle this. And I'm actually glad we had an opportunity to chat about that a little bit. So this keeps jumping around like a lot. It's hard for me to keep. Run the data stacks as a separate mapped path, but keeping everything else contained. Be a nice option. So my question now is, if I update the compose file externally, will Arcane detect this? Will restarting the stack use the latest version, or even auto restart? That's a good question. I don't know, Mr. Drummers. This project puts a smile on my face. It's so refreshing, dude. I agree. Like I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I've been struggling, and I think we talked about this last week. I've been struggling to find new services that get me excited about making content. Because again, we're finding a lot of, let's just keep remaking file sharing apps. Let's keep remaking note sharing apps and message sharing apps and uptime apps. And those are great. I love having options, but I can only make so many videos about note-taking apps before I start to lose interest. The video that we did last time, Orb, I was super excited about Orb, though technically not necessarily, as it currently stands, a fully self-hosted app. It's still a good way to monitor different nodes or devices on your network to see what their network connectivity looks like, right? Again, this is one of those fully self-hosted apps that actually makes me excited that somebody's doing something different. Like, yes, we've got Dockage, we've got Yacht, we've got Portainer. There are some others out there. But even with this being version 0.7.1, it is farther ahead than other similar types of apps that are version 2, version 3, version 4, that are well past the version 0. And that gives me a lot of excitement about what's going on here. Now, I also have reservations about this, if I'm going to be completely honest. It's kind of similar to what happened with Dockage, right? And it's not, I'm not trying to dig on anybody. I'm not trying to be mean to anybody. There was a period of time where the developer of Dockage had other things come up that were priority. He was also working on version 2 of Uptime Kuma. He's also got a personal life and a professional life and all of these things. So when small teams develop apps that I really, really like, I get nervous because I really like the app, but I'm afraid that something's going to happen to Kyle. And I don't mean a bad thing. It could be a really good thing. Maybe his professional career goes a different direction and he makes a ton of money that way, but is unable to dedicate the time to Arcane. Well, then those of us now using Arcane are kind of left wondering, when's the next update? When's the next feature release? When is the next security release? So I'm always excited to see stuff like this, but I'm also very often a little trepidatious about getting super attached to projects with only a couple of maintainers or developers, because if their life takes a different turn that takes them away from this project, now I've built my infrastructure on this project and it's not getting the security updates and the feature releases that other projects might be getting. And it's one of the reasons, honestly, that I ended up not going all in on Dockage, because there was like several months where it didn't get an update, and that made me nervous. So I couldn't commit to it. I hope that everything works out magically and Arcane can be updated and maintained and developed, for forever and ever and ever. I hope that it's one of those projects that really takes on a life of its own and becomes the community standard. But when we're dealing with small dev teams, that is less likely to happen. And again, I don't mean anything against Kyle or anybody else. It's one of those things that I try to be cognizant of when I start looking at small projects like this that have the potential to be the foundation of a home lab. So it's just something that I try to keep in my brain with this kind of stuff. So anyway, let's jump back over to this and take a look. All right, so we looked at that. We kind of dug through the stacks directory and why in this particular case it might make more sense to use a mapped volume on your systems operator, your file system, versus a Docker volume. Base server URL, host or IP when accessing containers. So that aren't Mac VLAN. That's what I was trying to remember earlier. So what I really should do here, does it want, just wants the host IP. Cool. So let's put that in there. Oops. Cool. We're just going to store that right there here in a minute. And we've got Docker registry credentials configured to provide or to access private Docker registries. I'm not going to do that. Don't have any. Not going to worry about it. Over here, we've got image polling. How often do we want to check for new images? I think 60 minutes is probably fine there. I know that sometimes different services get finicky, get kind of crabby when you start pinging them too often. I don't want to auto update. Image pruning, all unused images, dangling images only. I think that's all fine. I'm gonna click save. We're good there. User management. I was curious about this. We can create additional users. Let's take a look at my user account. Excuse me, first. So, cannot change the root user. So this is also one of those cases, like we were talking about earlier. This is effectively root, right? So what I would encourage you to do is create a new user, right? I might duplicate that password just to make sure that you've typed it twice correctly. Just a weird thing that I would recommend. But anyway, now we're going to go ahead and create this user. Now we've got this. Then what I would probably do, and let's just do this. Let me take a look. Edit, DB Tech, great. I'm going to log out. I'm going to log back in as me. That was wrong. There we go. And then what I would do is come back over here to user management and remove the root user. Again, it's taking the known variable out of the equation. If somebody sees, oh, this is Arcane, I know that the default username for Arcane is Arcane. That's what they're going to try. That's going to take one of those variables out. So create a new user, delete the Arcane user. You should be good to go. So then we've got authentication. Authentication method, configure how users sign in. We can do local, and that is currently it for right now. Session timeout, 30 minutes by default. You can change that. Password policy, basic, standard, strong. I love this. I know Portainer also has this. It is much harder to find, though. So I would love to see 2FA on this. That may be coming down the pipe, but just as it stands, I'd love to see 2FA on this. And it jumped. Man, sorry. Ghostboy says, okay, so does Arcane currently show terminal output like Dockage does? Kyle says, no, I'm not sure how to go about doing that, honestly, but they can look into it. What am I missing in open source? Um, look, we've taken a look at a couple of different application firewalls. I've got one over here somewhere that I started looking at. Oh man, SafeLine we've looked at. Um, when we looked at it, I didn't like it. They've also got a free version that I haven't looked at yet, but looks better than what they used to have. Zeraxi. Zeraxi is another one that's pretty good from my understanding based on what Nighthawk has told me in chat. I've deployed it, I've looked at it, but there are things about it I don't know yet. So I can't fully say, yep, that's the one. But I've heard good things about it. Those would be the two off the top of my head besides Nginx Proxy Manager or NPM Plus. Mr. Drummer, the best part is that it's all open source. Sometimes someone who likes the app as much as you and has spare time can fork it. Trillium is a fantastic example of that. Remember to submit issues, feature requests, and pull requests to the GitHub. Yep. That's why it's so important to have community involvement. Pull requests are the lifeline of small projects, in your opinion. I agree. Nighthawk says, yep, using Zeraxi. That's planned to be able to change here soon as well. You change where you can change the default admin username. Good. Rohol says, any self-hosted email servers to use my domain? Probably. I won't do it. I would rather pay $5 a month to Google or Proton or somebody else and let them deal with the headache. We've spent a lot of time over the last however long, not in this live stream, obviously, but in previous live streams, talking about why hosting email can be an absolute disaster. You can use email relays and that sort of thing to lessen the negative effect of self-hosting email, but I just don't advise it. I don't think it's a good practice. Some people are like, oh, I've been hosting it for 25 years, never had an issue. Congratulations, you're a unicorn, because that is not the standard. Damn it, it keeps scrolling hard on me sometimes. For the devs, at least look into something like Dependabot or similar to look at your container and follow any security updates to fix them automatically. Yep. Arcane would be a good competitor to COS-OS. Possibly, if they did something like Portainer has, with the ability to have templates where you can just select from a list of predefined applications based on a template. Again, using Portainer as an example there, that would be awesome. But again, I know, keep in mind, this is still early development for this app. A little behind on the live stream, but can this manage multiple Docker VMs running Docker? I don't think so, not yet. OIDC support is coming as well, and planned MFA as well, but need to make sure that it's a standard way versus just adding 8,000 MFA providers. Absolutely. Totally respect that. I also kind of agree with Collins. This doesn't compare to COS-OS at all. I'm confused by that. I think it's closer to being like Portainer or Dockage with that regard. But I think if you added templating like Portainer has, you could kind of, if you squinted just right, you could make that correlation. Zeraxi is greater than NPM. NPM Plus has dark mode. Pull requests are very much welcome. I'm not complaining to be the best. Any of this. Mr. Drummer says that he hopes to be able to contribute at some point. Swarm would be a long down the line. Yeah, a long way down the line. I agree. Excuse me. So there's that. Now, so we've kind of gone through everything here, right? Like, man, little tickle, just won't go away. So I think what we need to do now is deploy something. I think that's the next logical step here. Oh, you guys, hold on. You guys, no, that's fine. Right. Oh, did I just crash out? Am I still here? Oh, YouTube just took a crap for a second. I apologize, guys. I don't know what happened there. Yeah, I dipped out for a second. No, that was on my end. Like my stream has has, like, we've been at this for an hour, 29 minutes and 20 seconds, according to Twitch, and 22 seconds, according to YouTube. Yeah, no, YouTube took a crap on that, and I apologize. Nope, stop, don't care, shut up. Sorry, that was close enough that my home assistant was like, what? Yeah, so anyway, glad we're back. I apologize for that. We didn't got a message from Firefox. That's crazy. So yeah, what we're gonna do, I think at this point, is deploy something. And I'm gonna cheese out here. I'm gonna go to hub.docker.com/. Well, we're gonna have to do this. That needs to be there. And let's just find something easy to deploy. We'll do a couple of different things here, I think. No. Man. Home Assistant, that'd be funny. Man, you know what? Let's do this. I changed my mind. I'm gonna do GitHub. I know that Nighthawk has got some stuff in here. So we're gonna go look through his compose files. This is all open. This is easy to grab. Well, let's just do this. This is easy enough. I lied. Let's not do that. That's a lot. I'm looking for something basic, something simple, something that isn't going to take a lot of effort here. Ward. Say Ward. I don't know what Ward is, but cool. Let's do Ward. So we're going to jump back over to here. Thank you, Nighthawk. I appreciate the jump in on that. Oops, I'm on the wrong page. Let's create a stack. Okay, so it's okay. This is very much like Dockage with regard to this. This actually is very similar there. I'm going to take all of the environment variable stuff out of there. I don't even know what Ward is, but we're going to go for it. Vault Warden's also a good option there. Arcane, then I would take a look at Xeraxi or the Safeline. Take a look at Xeraxi or Safeline. All right, so we've got our stack configuration. We've got all of this. All of this looks fine. We're going to create our stack. Cool. So we've created our stack, and now we need to click deploy. This is very much like Dockage. Interesting. A WAF is a web application firewall. It can be a reverse proxy. Basically, it's a reverse proxy with firewall and that kind of stuff built into it usually. Looks like something between Dockage and Komodo. Bunker web. Okay, so this says that it's up and running. Cool. So let's just click right there. There it is. Ta-da. Cool. Thanks. That's actually a great suggestion, Nighthawk. I appreciate that. That's great. This is just a quick little dashboard. That's awesome. I should have named it something else other than Docker VM because it's definitely not that. But no, this is great. And here's our stack. I don't think I've ever talked about Bunker Web. I'm almost 100% sure I've never talked about Bunker Web. Sorry, I'm going to check over here because I'm almost 100% sure that I've never talked about Bunker Web. Because it's way out of my wheelhouse. Yeah, I've got nothing about Bunker Web. There you go. Jim's Garage has probably done that. Yeah, it's like Docker Portainer had a baby. Yeah, I agree with that. I missed the beginning of the live. Hope this is easy to deploy. Looking forward to walkthrough of the install. Yeah, dude, super simple to install. The Compose editor has YAML linting as well, which is important. That's cool. I appreciate that. Yeah, this is so going back, sorry, to Dan said, shoot, I missed the beginning of the live. This is the Docker Compose that we looked at. Um, so we deployed it using the Docker volume method here and removing this, which would have made it a mapped volume. I would encourage you to use the mapped volume and get rid of this if you want the ability to back up the stacks that you deploy here. Completely up to you, but there is an option in the settings to have a stacks directory and have it store stacks there. So just a quick little side note there. The live you watched where you're upset that it was payable. Yeah, that was I've said it a million times now. I can't think of the name of it. Um, that was SafeLine that we did that on. Um, okay, cool. Yeah, RK, that was SafeLine that we talked about, where I was upset that part of it was paywalled. That's really about the only one I've ever looked at. I've never looked at Bunker Web. Um, so yeah. Um, Cool. All right, let's go back to our dashboard, right? This is now that we've got a couple of things running. Let's take a look at this, right? Containers running 2, images 2, CPU 2, memory 2. Lots of 2s, love 2s. We can stop all running. That's awesome. There is also a system prune here. That's good. I guess I missed that earlier. And then below that, we can see our containers, their name, their ID, their image, their state, their status, and the images and their sizes. I actually really dig that as well. Containers, again, kind of more of the same. Uh, excuse me. If we open this up, command node build created configuration, we can kind of see the environment variables in here. Our ports, we can't change that, that's fine. Networks, we can see storage, we can see logs. This is great, loves being able to see logs. And then metrics for CPU and memory usage. This is all really, really good. Um, um, I believe that it can it can import. So when we talked about this earlier, we did cover this earlier. Yes, Collins, we did. When I first jumped in here, Arcane was listed here, and I had to do an import on that. But the way it imported the stack was actually right here, and it only imported part of the stack. The developer is actually working on that. It's kind of hit and miss presently. So it can actually import the stack. It's just a matter of getting it to work consistently. Oh yeah, Pangolin's also a good option. Thank you for bringing that up. Um, Pangolin's great. I really dig it, but it's more of a it is kind of a reverse proxy in the same way that Cloudflare Tunnels is a reverse proxy. Though I guess it can also just be a standalone reverse proxy. You don't necessarily have to use the tunnels for that. Pangolin might be a good option as well, I guess is what I'm getting at there. After looking at this more, it's definitely a design merge of Portainer and Dockage, essentially the best parts of both in one app. Yeah, and again, this is still early development. Um, yeah, yeah. So I think I think we agree, RK. Um, but I'm really really digging this. This is again, I hope that the developers who are part of this are able to continue to work on this. In fact, you know what? Let's do something here. Let's look at Bitwarden. No, I lied. Let's look at Vault. Let's look at Vault Warden, right? Is that purple line under running containers a graph? Um, I don't know. That's a really good question. Hey, Kazi, how's it going? Glad to have you here. Um, where is? Oh, here. Tell you what. Let's do this, right? Just as another demonstration, right? Let's exit, right? So let's do a make directory for Vault Warden, and then cd into that, and then nano docker compose.yaml. Sure, that's, well, I tell you what, yeah. We'll just leave it all like this, because it doesn't really matter. We'll do Docker compose up dash D, right? And I'm deliberately deploying this outside of Arcane, just so that we can have another look at this. It will show gray for stopped and purple for any. Cool. Yeah, it is a nice little graph. That's great. So yeah, I'm deliberately deploying Vault Warden outside of Arcane, just so we can actually do another demonstration of that now that Arcane is actually running. Because I was basically trying to import Arcane's Docker Compose into Arcane, which that may have been an issue. I don't know. But once this is up and running, here in a minute, there we go. Now I can come over to here. I can refresh. Now we've got 3 containers running. We can see Vault Warden is right here. The health is starting. I actually dig that it will show me the health right there. Stacks. So this Vault Warden is running. Again, right here it shows external. This is what we saw when we first jumped in here and we saw root, right? Root was external. So what I want to do is click import on this. And then let's open this up. And again, it only imported part of it. So that is still very much a work in progress, like Kyle mentioned earlier in the stream. So it's just a matter of that. Is it possible to point stacks directory to an existing directory? Yes. In order to do that, though, you would want to use a mapped volume, not a Docker volume, when you deploy this, because if you put it in a Docker volume, it's harder to do that. You have to like actually do an exec IT into the container and get into that, and that gets messy. If you just use a Docker volume, it makes it much easier for that to work. So completely up to you. And they've changed that, like was mentioned earlier. But just know there's a couple of different ways you can deploy that. If you go with a mapped volume, /home/docker/arcane/arcane data, all of your scripts within all of your stacks would get dropped into there. It's in the stack directory, and that could be. Kyle says, I think the importing works if it's in the stack directory. It's based on the permission of the compose location, etc. I'm sure I got to figure it out, and that's fine. But let's test that, right? Let's actually test that. So let's come back. Let's destroy Vault Warden. Remove. We'll give this a second to do its thing. Cool, that's gone. Images. We'll leave it for now. So let's do this, right? Just because we're here. Let's do a Docker exec -it. Oops, I lied. I bet it's over here. Screw it. Docker PS. Let's grab this, just so we've got the Docker ID. Then we can do a Docker exec IT. Oops. IT and then sh. Cool. And then let's do an ls. Cool. We'll cd into data. Right. ls. Cool. We'll cd into stacks. ls. Cool. So now we're going to make a directory called vw. Oh, because I'm dumb. I bet that works better. Then we'll do a cd into vw. Nano compose.yaml app update. Oh, interesting. Okay, so what is the create command? Nano doesn't work. I bet you're using VI, aren't you? Alpine. Okay. Compose.yaml. Oh, there we go. Thank you. That helps. APK add nano. Oops. Thank you. Appreciate that. That's super helpful. Now you do nano compose.yaml. Cool. So then we're just going to copy this into here, like so. Quiet Association, thanks for joining. Appreciate you being here. Super enjoy having more people here. Okay, so we've done that. If we do an ls, we've got our compose.yaml file. Yeah, VW. I was lazy. So if I come back over here and go to stacks, Did I miss something? Did I screw something up? Because it seems like something I would do. Yeah, compose.yaml tone. Oh, and oh, okay. So I need to do that. And there, okay. So let's do nano.stack. Okay, interesting. Okay, so we can't actually just drop something in there without an ID. And that this is all fine. Then I guess I would have to know how that ID is generated. Or if even what I tried to do there makes sense. That's a bug. It should detect it. All right. So so let's just stacks. Can we do this? Just wanted to see if maybe let's see, images, containers, volumes, settings, data, restart Arcane. Yeah, that's kind of what I was actually thinking, Bratwurst. Kyle said that it should have detected it automatically, but stuff happens sometimes. RK, I need you to chill. Did you check up Uptime Kuma alternative one time? I think I've looked at it, but I haven't actually done anything with it. The problem is since is that it's not detecting the stack, even though I deployed it in here, like in Ward. If I do an ls, like compose.yaml is there, but if I do a cd ls, actually I need to do that because there's no .stat.json file in the VW directory that corresponds to the compose.yaml file for Vault Warden. Arcane isn't picking it up. So I can't just start the stack because it's not detecting the stack. So, oops, darn it, that is not what I wanted to do there. There we go. So I do an exit. I can do Docker restart Arcane. So we'll give that a second to restart. Docker PS. It's been up. All right, so let's refresh. Yeah, it's not detecting it. So unfortunately, like Kyle mentioned, this is apparently a bug, and that's honestly why I kind of like doing this stuff, because I can check out different ways that people might approach things, especially when we've got the developers in the stream. That's awesome. Yeah, that's kind of where it is as far as that is concerned. Oh, should have seen that earlier. Let's just ban whatever. I'll try to get figured out. Thanks for checking. Yeah, look, and again, this is. Did you do the for? I did not do the Docker up compose -d because I was actually inside the container. This wasn't like I'm using a Docker volume for this, so it won't. I can't deploy the container with inside the container because Docker isn't installed inside Arcane. If that makes sense as far as what I'm talking about there. Because I was yeah, right. So like right now I'm actually inside the container with that command. So I'm not able to. Oops. Yeah, like I'm ls. Yeah, I'm in stacks here, and that's where that is. But for some reason, it's just not detecting it, and it's fine. They'll get it worked out. Because yeah, so that's kind of where it is. Yeah, guys, I'm really excited about this. There's still work to be done, and that's I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be like there's work to be done, but for this being a version 0 deployment, like this is awesome. Like I really dig this. I think there's a lot of potential here. I think this is great. Does Vault need to be running for it to be picked up? The problem, Nightfall Sentinel says, does Vault need to be running for it to be picked up? It does if I deploy it outside of Arcane. Then it can detect that it's running, and if I run an import, then currently it will only pick up part of the Docker Compose, and that's why I wanted to try to set up a Docker Compose inside the containers data/stacks thing, like we show here, like where we are here. That's the VW folder I created there. From here, I can't spin up that container because I'm inside of an existing container. So yeah, is this similar to Portainer? It's kind of like somewhere between Portainer and Dockage. Again, this is still early development. This has recently popped up on my radar. Again, thanks to Alexia for bringing this fully to my attention yesterday in Discord. It gives us an opportunity to see where it is very early on. I actually did something similar with Dockage back in the day, where we took a very early look at Dockage, and then later I did a follow-up video on it. Work. So yeah, that's where we are. Like I probably at this point, let's bring up Stupid over here. There he is. I probably wouldn't use this as my base at this point, just because I don't know that it's quite ready yet. However, if development keeps going and keeps going and keeps building and keeps refining and adding features and making sure that everything works, this could absolutely be at some point an alternative to Portainer or Dockage or Yacht or one of those other types of Docker container apps. And I say that because my brain paused for a second. Because this is a Docker container that is used to manage other Docker containers. I don't know if Yacht is still developed. I actually was chatting with the developer months and months ago. He said he was working on a rebuild of it, but I haven't looked at Yacht in a really, really long time. Docker Yacht, yacht.sh, but from Self-Hosted Pro. It hasn't been touched in like 9 months. Just from looking at the Docker, at the GitHub, Yacht hasn't been touched in about 9 months. So again, I throw Yacht out there because I've used it, I've heard of it, I've tried it. Other people are familiar with it, so it's just another variation of something to throw in there. You should deploy Renovate Bot to manage your Docker with full automation. I might look at Renovate Bot, but I would never deploy it into production just because I wouldn't trust it. I like to be more hands-on with certain things. Like I've got 3 Docker servers running, kind of. Like my Synology has Docker running on it. That one, the apps that are running on that, I let those auto-update when they need to auto-update. But like on my demo server, on my HL15, those are all hands-on. I don't trust automation for updating containers in those cases. I know a lot of people do. I don't. We all handle things a little bit differently. Our case is, how many watts is your cabinet eating? About 350. Again, not much. And that includes 3 NASAs, an HL15, a mini PC, and the networking gear. Is like 350 to 400 watts, depending on what's going on. Yeah, so it's using next to nothing, all things considered. 350 is not much. Like I've got, I could push it harder, about 350, yeah. But again, that's like 3 NAS devices, an HL15, a mini PC, all of my networking gear. I guess that's it. Look here, the reality is I could host my entire home lab on a ZimaCube, right? And it would take 50 or 60 watts. and I could still do all of my transcoding, and I could still do absolutely everything just fine on a ZimaCube. And I've actually considered doing that. I started that process. The problem is I didn't have enough RAM at the time to throw in it. So, so yeah, I've actually absolutely considered downgrading or downsizing, not downgrading, downsizing my setup just because, like my electricity bill is like my entire utility bill last month for water, sewer, gas, and electric was $281. So, and again, that's water, sewer, electric, gas. All of that was less than $300. So I'm super content with this. Um, but let's see. Dude, I guess Kyle is gonna bounce. That's cool. Thank you, thank you. Oh, there it is. I gotta dip out. Dude, thank you so much for joining, Kyle. Super appreciate you hanging out. And both you and your compatriot. Unfortunately, his name has escaped me. Never been good with names. Just Kyle sticks out for a number of reasons. So thank you to both of you for hanging out and chatting for a bit. Super appreciate you being here and chatting and being so open and receptive to the questions and the suggestions that people have had. That really means a lot to me. So yeah. You see. God dang it. Yeah, Utba says I downsized my home lab from a 24 core 36 thread server to a 3 mini PC cluster. So fast and easy to power up. Yeah. Um, like for a while, I had my entire I say that I had almost everything running on a 3 node cluster for a Proxmox high availability node or a high availability cluster on Zima boards. I had three Zima boards, three not four, three Zima boards running my entire infrastructure. Though I did have a mini PC um, that was specifically running Plex. Um, that was the 8008 from whoever did the 8008 that came with malware. Um, but yeah, so you can absolutely go smaller. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, guys. um, I encourage people to go as small as they can, just because I think it's a great challenge. Um, let's see. RK says, I appreciate such lives because I'm getting feedback by a new tool and great to have the devs live as well. I've been trying to do that more lately, having the devs available for these live streams, just so they can chime in, they can answer questions, they can hear directly from you guys what your thoughts are on certain things. I've been trying to do that more. I've actually got a video coming up very soon where the developer of the application is going to be in the video. We're not going to do a live stream on that, but I've already got his part of the footage to go into the video that's coming up, and I'm really excited about that. Ghostboy says this is the first time I've been able to catch one of your live streams, and I'd like to say thank you for being so interactive, responsive, and inclusive. I try, and it will be the death of me, I'm sure. I would be more interactive with the folks over on Twitch right now if I could, but this stream started as a cluster. I came in. Oops, I don't know why that shouldn't have made any noise. That my system is muted. But yeah, I came out. My system was DOA or whatever, and I had to bring my laptop out, plug a bunch of stuff into it, and then I'd be able to. It would have been cleaner if I'd had more time. But it is what it is. I try to be super interactive. Sometimes it is distracting, if I'm honest. But I'm on some new meds, and I'm still feeling good about everything despite everything. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. What's going on over here? Did I miss something? let's see. Thomas says he updated the compose file to your suggestion without the dot slash. I would actually, I think based on what we discovered while deploying things, um, I'm still back and forth on whether I would use a dot slash or whether I'd use a mapped volume or a Docker volume for that. That's going to depend on how his import script starts working later. Let's see, it's crazy how many PCs are giving the same performance as enterprise grade servers. Dude, it's no joke. In fact, I've got a mini PC out for delivery later today, here in the next few hours, that I'm excited to take a look at. That I think, based on the specs of the device, will be very similar to the Asus NUC 14 Pro Plus that I reviewed several months ago. Very, very similar specs to that, but at a lower price. Alexi says, I did a fun thing last week. I deployed a game server on my mini PC and it's still sleeping. I'm curious which game server you deployed. I'm curious about that. That's one of the reasons we've added the dev channel in Discord, says Collins, so we can help showcase them more via the channel, man. Like, that's, and I was actually chatting with my wife about this, in relation to Collins's idea of adding the dev channel and getting the devs more involved in these videos, because I think what happens with these situations, especially in a situation like with Arcane, for instance, or Dockage, right? And I know they're very similar products, but the same idea applies even if they're very different products. People are like, well, I want the product to do this and this and this and this and that. Cool. That's one developer, right? You're asking one developer to implement all of these different features because in your brain, and I'm using the royal you, the royal we, the whatever, right? Like you, the person that might be out there, forgets that it's one person building this app because it's something they really want to build. We get in the habit of Zoom or Facebook or Android or whatever, where they've got 10,000 people working on it, right? And everybody's got a specialty where they can chip in and they can build that feature very quickly. And I want to bring the human element back to these apps. I need people to understand that very often the apps that we're looking at are created by one or two people building this app because it's something that they felt needed to be built. And it's one of the reasons when James Collins was like, hey, I think we should add this dev chat, I was like, abso-friggin-lutely, let's do that. Because it reignited my desire to start getting the devs more involved in these live streams, in the videos that I create, because people forget that it's one or two people often developing these apps that we love so much. And that's super important to me. I want people to be able to directly interact with the developers so that they can say, I talked to that developer. I talked to that single developer who's working on that application, and I know he's got a lot going on, so I'm going to make the suggestion. I will help where I can, but I'm also going to cut him some slack if he doesn't implement it immediately. So that's one of the reasons I really wanted to get developers more involved in my videos and my live streams, that sort of thing. Oops. Darn it, quit. Oh my God, quit. Installed and testing, that's awesome. Yeah, giving visibility allows folks to get excited and contribute, right? I have not made a video about Stable Diffusion. I think, hold on. The only one I've actually ever really looked at for like image creation was Invoke AI. And beyond that, I really haven't done much of anything there. And Bratwurst, you bring up a very fair point, who says that's fair, but it makes me really cautious using something created with just one guy. 100%. And that's what I was talking about earlier. Like the developer for Dockage is also the same developer as Uptime Kuma, right? And I loved Dockage, but he had to refocus his attention to Uptime Kuma to get the new version of that out. So the dockage didn't get the attention that I feel it deserved for several months. So that's why I'd mentioned earlier that when you've got a small team, if that developer or those contributors, if there's one or two or three of them, something happens and they all split ways, well, now that app's no longer getting developed unless somebody forks it and continues to maintain it and updates the community of like, hey, we've forked this. This is the new official version for right now because the primary developers who started this can't do their thing. It's very much a situation of you've got to be careful when you deploy these apps, that especially when it's a small team, because anything could happen. Not that I would ever wish it, but Kyle might get hit by a bus tomorrow, and now all of a sudden Arcane's no longer a thing. And I don't want that to happen. I like Arcane. I want to see Arcane continue to develop, but I'd also like to see Dockage continue to develop. But it's hard to trust that in the long term, small team projects will get all of the attention they always deserve. You should, let's see. Kazi says, you should start a day in the life of Dev X series. That would be fun. Here's the problem with that. And I don't want this to be misconstrued. A lot of developers got into being developers because they're very often not good with people, right? Not everybody. I'm making a large generalization here. But when I got into web development, because I didn't want to deal with people. I just wanted to write code. I've obviously that has switched for me. But a lot of developers out there, whether they're front end or back end developers, are usually more notoriously antisocial from my experience. Obviously, that is not true across the board, but just in my experience, getting them to participate in something like that might be very, very difficult, so that they had a certain level of comfort, whether it's recording themselves, documenting their day for somebody else to talk about. They very often do these kinds of jobs because it involves them not having to talk to a lot of people or talk about themselves very much. I would love to do that if I could find the right developers. Let me rephrase that. If I could find developers who were comfortable on that level of intimacy with us exploring their lives. And that can be very, very difficult. So RK says, is there a Docker complete solution in Docker where I can just run a stack and have like chat GPT experience with local LLMs? Yes. You can use Olama. RK, this is what I use. And then you can pull in LLMs. I will say with that, you do need to have a GPU if you want good results. If you try to just use the iGPU or the CPU in your system, you're going to have a bad time. I've got a 2070 set up for mine, and it works great. You can pick up a 2070 for like $200. Yeah. Oh man. So I think, honestly, despite the crazy, oh yeah, you have procs with a GPU, give it a try. That's exactly what I did. My Olama instance that powers part of my Home Assistant stuff is on my Plex VM. So 100%, it's exactly what I did. So yeah, have at with that. You should have a good time. Anyway, what I was ready to say is, despite the way this stream started and the 45 minutes leading up to when this stream started, I think this turned out well. I really dig how all of this went. I'm super, super happy with all of this. But yeah, I think, man, we've been at this for just over 2 hours. My throat is really, really arguing with me. I can still feel tickling. Here's the thing, right? Like, I had a cough for a while when I had this upper respiratory thing, but that cough led into this irritation in my throat. And I don't know if you can kind of see, like right here, I've got a little bit of a scar right now, there it is, right there. That used to be up here. My skin has sagged. That's from tracheotomies in 2016. And there's scar tissue in there that sometimes gets irritated. And if I talk for too long, it gets irritated and frustrated and that sort of thing. So, let's see. The link that I shared talks about the GPU pass through. Yeah, so you should be able to dig through that. I will say that one other thing that you'll need to do, let me, hold on. Am I still using net data? No, I'm not. Only because I'm lazy. That's what it boils down to. It didn't fit into my workflow. I don't look at that information that often. It felt like it was taking up unnecessary resources for something that I wasn't using. To go back to RK's thing here, when you're in Proxmox, let me go back over to my desktop here. Like this is my Plex VM, right? When you create this, boot it up, let it do its thing, get your operating system installed, shut it down. Come over to hardware, go to add, go to PCI device, and then go to raw device, scroll down, and find your GPU. Then at that point, you can go through the process of installing the NVIDIA drivers and the NVIDIA toolkit inside the VM. But this is the extra step that you need to take to make sure that it all works, is you need to make sure that you pass this through. You might also add all functions and primary. You might check some of these boxes depending on what you're trying to do. But you will need to add that PCI device to your VM so that the VM will recognize it, and then you can do drivers and NVIDIA toolkit. That's the only caveat to me saying no to that other question. Yeah, and Nighthawk, you did a great job with that. I just wanted to make sure that I demonstrated this one extra little thing there. But yeah, no, this has been awesome, guys. Thank you so much for swinging by, hanging out, chatting. To those of you who donated, subscribed, whatever. Thank you. Your financial support really does mean a lot to me. I know watching the video, I appreciate that, the likes, the subscribes, the comments, that sort of thing. But the little donations, obviously, really do mean a lot to me too. So thank you to everybody who was here, everybody who donated, everybody who subscribed on both platforms, on both Twitch and YouTube. Thank you. It's because of you guys I get to keep doing this. I've got a video coming out this week that I'm excited about, that I hope you will be as well. And I think this is great. So thank you guys again. I am going to go ahead and wrap this up. I don't have all of my end screen and pause screens stuff here. So I just got to sit here for a minute and just say nothing. Otherwise, it will cut me off mid-sentence. So anyway, thank you guys again.